Because my keyboard is sticky. Oh, Mike Natazzi loves his nickname. That works out for you.
Bit nasty. You got what you need, sweetie?
I do.
All right.
Thank you.
Going live in 3, 2, and 1. Hello, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Not touching that screen
Yeah,
at
don't
all.
touch the screen. That's a thing you do
You
before.
scoot a little too closer to me. There we go. That sounds
Scoot a
good.
little closer.
A lot of people in the house today. This is great. This is going to be a super fun show. We are going to have the Hutch himself, JC
So
Hutchins,
excited.
is going to be on. Although I have to admit, I may have just sent a community post that said, lovely human being is going to be on.
Well, that's
so.
okay. You guys have a lot to talk about
Tons.
your
Tons.
rivalry maybe potentially being over.
We didn't do mutual adorations, but I think you're fantastic.
You're swell too.
You're swell.
Where this is how the sausage gets made, you guys, because we are busy and sometimes crabby. I don't know if you guys ever get crabby at work, but we do.
We get crabby.
Right before we go live, we have to tell each other we like each other just in case we're pissy, so that you guys don't see it. So that's actually in the script is saying nice things to each other.
We'll go over here. All right. Well, we're going to tear through this housekeeping. What do we call it? I don't know. Junkie keeping. We're going to tear through
and
this.
I can do quite a lot of that if you want.
Let's get it, baby.
Yeah. So we have a handful of updates today. We are doing some Siglebrations, but not every Siglerbration. A lot of photos came in. We're going to probably do those next week because so many of you in the chat room are also, just like me, are old Patio Book Days fans, and we want to bring Hutch on as soon as we can. So some of that will go to next week, but we'll be back to normal next week. But it'll just be us talking and laughing and whatever. But we do have a few updates, gangster updates. I will tell you this. Posters started shipping today. Posters are being done by one beautiful human. Her name is Tori Pond, and she is doing that work every day. She's packaging and shipping books every day. Posters every day. Just like us, it'll take her a few weeks to get them out, especially since she's working completely by herself. So hang tight if you're missing a poster. Don't worry, it's on the way. If you are missing a book and you live outside the United States, I spent a goodly amount of time today at the post office, and I have some info, but not a ton of info. If you are in Australia and New Zealand, it is very likely that in the next week or so, I will receive your books back. If they can't launch shipping again, I will receive your books back, and I'll receive the credit for that postage and all of that stuff back, and then I will be able to send those books to you. If you're in the UK, this is my least favorite update, because the UK shut down their tracking sharing information with Brexit. I can't track it for you even at the post office because the UK took away our ability to do that, or even the post office's ability to do that. So what they said is we need to wait at least 21 business days from when they shipped, and then I can submit something that gets sent to the UK, and then they do the tracking or something. So 21 business days is actually next week because we had a holiday in the United States. So I'm going every single day to the post office. I can tell you your books, if you don't have them back, with the exception of 5 people who live in the United States, I don't have them either yet. I picked up 5 today, and I'm going to track those folks down. But I'm working on it every single day and hope to have an answer soon for you. If you are outside the United States, especially in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore, your posters won't be shipped until we know that we can get them to you, which might mean we end up shipping them FedEx or something like that. But for now, since we can't send anything out of the United States to you, you're not getting anything for the moment. As you guys heard, we have JC Hutchins joining us in just a little bit. We do have a couple of Siglebrations. We are also celebrating this week 2 things. It is National M&M Day.
What?
So I have a bowl full of M&Ms that she's going to eat all of. I took my one.
These are the straight crack, the peanut M&Ms without a peanut in them. Oh my God.
Peanut butter M&Ms, those are, by the way. And it is also the U.S. Navy's birthday, and I have a very special message from my brother Jude to Robin Taylor. Normally, Robin and Jude chat about both being Navy. Well, she's active and he's retired. In the chat room, but he's unable to join tonight because of an American Legion thing. So he wants to say happy birthday, shipmate. And
this Hutch, who's in the green room, Melissa says she has not finished it yet and has to tap out. She doesn't want spoilers, but she loves Aya. That's her favorite new character. So we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
So get your questions ready for the Hutch, you guys. Go ahead, babe.
Yep. So the first Saturday of every month, as you guys know, our good friend Steve Rickyberg, the Iceberg, runs I think it's 6 hours long, and it's a happy hour.
Insane.
It's a junkie happy hour. We don't always join. I really like it, so I try to join at least for a little while. Scott's normally doing band stuff, so He floats in and out a little bit. But the next one is on November 6th. It starts at 4 p.m. Pacific time. It goes to 11 p.m. Pacific time. You should check it out. It's pretty fun. And you can come in and go as you please. Obviously, you don't have to stay there for 6 hours, just like every happy hour. Let's see. This week on Monster of the Week, which is Scott's Friday show.
Gotta go to, hold on, I screwed up. Gotta go to Maine, and I gotta go Monster of the Week. Boom.
And this is Mike Cole. Author Mike Cole is joining. Can I have this screen back? There we go. Why is it switching? Interesting.
It's not.
Mike Cole is joining on Friday at 4 p.m. He is the author, most recently, of The Bronze Lie, which is factual information about the Spartans. If you're a big fan,
it's got pictures and everything.
If you're a big fan of 300, maybe not The Bronze Lie for you. But
oh no!
Let
me go back to me real quick. Oops, turn that off. Of course, I'm super excited to have Mike on the show because Mike's book, Legion versus Phalanx, was instrumental in Aliens Phalanx. A lot of the research in that went into making that book good. This book is great. There are some people who are unhappy and flipping out because Mike is using actual historical references to say, hey, this is a thing that happened in history and it's documented. You should check it out. And people are pissed. So real quick, grab this book if you can. It's awesome. And again, going back to the reason that giving your favorite authors reviews and stars whenever you can is important, because the one weapon people can wield against an author is the 1-star review, because it impacts so many things. So when people get pissy at an author for either what is in a book, what is not in a book, for killing a character, for daring to have a political view, left, right, whatever, one of the biggest weapons that people have is go out and just slander it with bad reviews, even if they read it or not. Yeah. So whenever you get a chance, 5-star review for your favorite authors is good stuff.
Okay, a few more things before we bring Hutch on, and we'll do a couple of. I'm just going to run through it all so we have the whole hour.
Let's go.
Yeah. So Mike will be on Friday at 4 p.m. where you're watching this now, and you can see it after the fact. It's only half an hour long show. It's super fun. If you go. Almost always. There's a few of you who you recognize in this chat room who are always there. I know, Sean, you join a lot, and your work day. I don't know why, but I like to say have a good weekend to Sean Dyer because he's in that chat room too all the time.
And the monster of the week is Nessus?
Is Nessos, and that's
Nessos?
Actually, it's a O there, but yes.
It's spelled both ways. Okay. I've looked it up, ma'am. I've looked it up. But this is the motherfucker that killed Hercules, so we should talk about it.
Technically speaking, is the motherfucker who killed Hercules.
That's right.
As you guys know, if you're familiar at all with Greek mythology, it's a little bit twisted, and you should come and find out. Nessos was a centaur, and yes, technically speaking, is responsible for the death of Hercules. So come join Mike and Scott. I'll be in the chat room on Friday afternoon. Let's see. We are going to obviously talk quite a lot about the Stone Wolves. So the gangster shipping is happening. The gangster poster shipping started today. And the Stone Wolves is now live in the podcast feed. I think we're up to week 3 now. And we'll talk a lot more about that. I think I said everything I need to tell you guys about the gangster, but certainly if you have questions. Oh, I will say this. A lot of you, and especially you guys outside the U.S., are being super duper nice to me by like checking in Sigler Junkies or on Facebook like, hey, did you guys hear anything? Please just ask me. It's a lot easier for me to go with real information. Like on your end, you can't get any tracking stuff like that. So I keep trying to keep up with Sigler, with Facebook and Sigler Junkies and stuff, but you're not at all bothering me if you email me with that info, and I will work on it. I promise. I'm not going to stop until you guys get your books.
Quick note, if you're watching this right now, you see a number at the bottom of the screen. That is our community text number. You can text that. It'll send you a text back asking you to confirm, and then you get text from me like every week, every Friday for Monster of the Week or Wednesday. Just let you know what's going on. It's a much more efficient way to do things. But if you still like the newsletter, by all means, go to scottsigler.com/newsletter and sign up there. We got a lot of good information. All right.
You hear that little howly ghost?
I do.
You see if you can get her while I talk about our sponsor?
Sure.
Do you want to call up our sponsor?
Oh, sponsor.
Yeah.
Well, let me do this.
Sorry, that's my fault.
I'm a professional.
Yeah.
There we go.
So our sponsor this week, as you guys know, I always pick a charity for you guys. It's a 501c3 or a registered charity that is actively working to help communities during the COVID crisis. We've been doing this almost 2 years, you guys. So if you have any charity suggestions. They have to be a registered charity. That's super important for our protection and for yours. But other than that, I would love your recommendations. I chose Homeboy Industries this week because Homeboy Industries began in 1988. It is a, as you can tell by the name, it is a community of people who take formerly incarcerated people who may have been in gangs, got incarcerated, got clean, got out of the gangs, and now they are unemployable. They have tattoos all over their face. So back in 1988, Homeboy Industries was founded. I think it started with tortillas and salsa, but don't quote me on that. And now they do a whole bunch of stuff. But what they do for COVID is work in the community for food, for services, for car rides to vote, to go to medical services, things like that. And they are active in the community. They also have a global Homeboy network, and they're in 27-something countries around the world doing this same thing. It's a grassroots effort. So if you have the ability to contribute, go ahead and do that. If you have the ability to share, go ahead and do that. And if you have recommendations for a COVID-centric or local to you charity that is helping community members during this time, please let us know at info@emptyset. All right. I think we're going to do Sigler-brations. And then
Do
we're done.
Sigler-brations. I have no information for Story Smack this week. It'll be Mission Impossible on November 13th. That's all I got. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we do have, like I said, a whole bunch of catching up to do, but I chose a few that are sort of timely. We don't think I have any photos for this. So we have Sherry Hare, as you guys know, especially if you've been following in Sigler Junkies, she had a heck of a month. She ran into a raccoon, finally got her car back. I think it was like 30-something days. I totally feel your pain after having been in Ira and Texas in 2019 for so long waiting for my car to be repaired. Also, her 10-year-old recently had a very gnarly wipeout on his bike and ended up with with needing potentially 3 root canals. But the dentist took a look and thinks it might be okay. So that is definitely a Sigler-bration because,
wonderful.
And then last, on October 9th, which was just a few days ago, 6 years ago, we were at Siglerfest. We were all at Siglerfest. And we had a handful of things happen at Siglerfest that are memorable. As you guys know, last week we talked about the Lundys getting engaged. And 6 years ago, this Siglerfest, the Chavaria Sherwoods revealed that they were expecting with the photo with Scott and I. And it's hopefully you guys are online and you can put that chat in the or that picture in the chat because it's super cute. Jen's wearing a T-shirt that says, I think coming soon, and then Shannon's wearing a T-shirt.
We can
that
throw it
says
up. We'll throw it up
Littlest
next week
Krakens.
because I missed that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And I think we're going to move everything out so that we can do photos and all that stuff next time. Like I said, Trevor, I definitely want to show your bookshelf, but I'm going to do it next week so we have time for it. And now I think, oh my
It's
goodness.
time for. Oh, wait. Let me get him. Ask to unmute. Unmute Mr. Hutchins. Let's get you ready to go. There he is.
There he
Let's
is.
bring back. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. J.C. Hutchins. Oh, that darn thing. Start talking, baby. I screwed up this
Hello,
picture
my friend.
somehow.
How are you?
Can you hear us?
Hey,
Hey.
so I can't see you guys right now. I'm seeing an Empty Set Entertainment logo, but
Okay.
I'm sure you're looking wonderful.
Yeah, he's gonna turn
I will
on
fix
the-
all of that. Let's go to Zoom. You guys just hang loose. This is live TV. You guys know how we do.
There it is.
We're experts.
Well, let me give for the OGs,
There we go.
for the original junkies.
Always-
Hey, everybody! Hutchins here.
That's fat. And now I got your pictures set up. I am so bad at some of this stuff, man, trying to figure out this technology. Anyways, Hutch, welcome to the house. Welcome to SIGLERinPLACE. We're I'm not gonna lie, A and I are just actually kind of giddy that we've got the Hutch on.
excited.
Like
Well,
I knew,
after blocking my ass in one of the shows earlier.
I knew we were gonna have to do this at some point. Like I think, oh, we're co-writing a book with Hutch. We'll have to have him on. Then I forget about it for 7 months. I'm like, oh, we gotta have Hutch on. And he's like, yes, you've told me. Forget about it for 3 months. Oh, we're gonna have Hutch on. I think I reminded her this afternoon. Hey, Hutch is gonna be on.
Yeah.
But she knew. Yes.
Yeah. No. Also, since you can't see the chat room easily, Hutch, Richard Reed just checked in as Beta Clone 81.
Nice.
Yes.
super fun.
Oh my gosh, they live on.
If it's okay with both of you guys, since you guys are going to talk a lot about the Stone Wolves, I would like to talk about you guys back in the day a little bit because I started, of course, as a fan. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are relatively new to Siglerism or you were not part of the Patio books gestalt about a decade ago, in about 2005, the podcast started, things like that started. And you guys know this from Scott's story that a handful of writers started to podcast their stories. And J.C. Hutchins and Scott formed what I'm sure was a very bitter rivalry.
It was unholy and
Unholy,
not coordinated in any way.
Not at all a marketing effort, nothing like that. And if you guys now, if you've never, I can't imagine that there's any of you in the chat room who have never heard of Hutchins, but if you haven't and you're going to start to read, you will see crossovers in their stories. You Social Networking is written in J.C. Hutchins' universe, so there's a lot of you who love that, and I hope you know that is written in J.C. Hutchins' universe for Seventh Son. And if you don't know that, read the Seventh Son trilogy. It's awesome. And really, you like Sigler stuff, you're going to love Hutch's stuff. But they had a rivalry back in the day that went on. And what did you call J.C.?
Hutchins.
And so when we were doing the novellas, we knew that we wanted to sort of end the arc of novellas, hopefully with JC co-writing a story. And that is the story that so many of you love that's called The Stone Wolves. And it started, I think you guys started talking about this back in 2015, and then we had a lot of growth. You guys had a lot of growth, all the things.
Easily, yeah. And before, I'm sorry if I can share like
Go.
So like A was a fan and I was a fan of Sigler. And just for and Scott, I'm sure you don't remember our first the first time I reached out.
Dude, I don't remember what I had for breakfast. So
yeah dude, it was like, I think it was like New Year's Eve, like 2005.
Okay.
So about to go into 2006, and this was back when we were all like, "Hey, here's my phone number. Text me if you want to." If you want to get a chat, or here's my AOL sign-on login, whatever. And I noticed that you were on, and I pinged you, and I was like, "Look, my story is very similar to yours. I can't find an agent. It's like I'm underpublished. In my case, I can't find an agent for this monstrous book."
Right.
And contrary to this hellish, mean-spirited persona that he had back in the day, lots and lots of violence. Scott, you're the coolest guy, and you took this perfectly strange stranger under your wing and said, "Here's how to do it." And 3 months later, I was in the game with Seventh Son Book 1, and there are several movers and shakers in the earliest generation of Gen 1 of patio bookers, but by country mile the most influential, and certainly personally the most influential for me, and one of my best friends. So it is an absolute pleasure to be here to bring it all home. All the later. Yeah.
And thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
And I know you guys know this. We three have talked about this offline, but the Stone Wolves people are really, really digging it. We have a handful of very, very concerned people who want to know quite a lot about beans. And a lot of people want to know a lot about Aya and her sort of different syntax and choice of words and things like that. So I don't know how you guys want to start talking about how this process
first of all,
came about.
I've got a couple of little bullet points to write down here. The first thing I want to talk about is the characters, because we're going to talk about the co-writing in a second. And one of the things about co-writing that at least I found is trying to prepare for this show, I would go back and like, okay, that's a cool thing. Who did that thing? And it's just been like, Hutch draft, I write, change. And now I'm like, I have no fucking idea who came up with what. But what I do remember is the main crew of the Oleron those were all at least started out as J.C. Hutchins characters, Beans, Aya, Zan, and Killian. So let's go through them all. The one people just can't get enough of is Beans. Do you recall in your headspace where you were with Beans?
Yeah, it was just like, let's do something, unexpected. Let's flip the script and let's try to find something, because they're like flinging sperm in all the other books, right?
I do have to break in for 1 second and say to everybody who hasn't read that there will be spoilers here. We've talked about Beans, but to talk any more about who and what he is definitely going to be a little spoiler for you. So you may want to if spoilers bother you, you may want to tune out.
Yeah, and
we can talk around it. I mean, you guys,
let's talk partially around it. We'll try and avoid, because to me, the ending that this book went to with us working together is, in my opinion, the best ending
No
the
holds
best
barred.
ending of a book I've ever written, and that that includes Nocturnal, which is slam bang over the top. That includes Aliens Phalanx, which I'm super proud of and think any Aliens fan. But the ending of the Stone Wolves is by far the most spectacular thing. It might be the most spectacular thing I've ever written. I will ever write because it's hard to top that son of a bitch. It's really hard.
It
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
So we will not say what the ending is. We will try and be spoiler discreet. But we
Thanks,
have
Louis.
a co-author on right now, and the book's only been out for a month, baby.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah,
about a month. So we'll go a little easy, but we can't promise we won't spoil everything. So it's up to you guys to watch from here.
So I think it's safe to say that one of Beans's characteristics, featured characteristics, is his stutter. That's safe to talk about.
Yeah.
Was that an intentional choice in the writing too?
Well, I think so. I my memory is that I don't think I had him stuttering as much, but I was doing a lot of yep.
Okay.
Like lots of yep. And I think that Scott came in and rightly, dialed that down a bit and brought in some of the stutter, which, of course plays well in print, but it's just like your performance of it in the audiobook, Scott's just dynamite.
Thank
I read them, like I bought the Audible and then I bought the ebook. So like, I double dipped.
I mean, you can have author copies. Come on now.
Hey man, I gotta support the man.
That's how I feel too. That's how I feel too.
Support. So anyway, but yeah, so he but I think that stutter probably came through in one of Scott's revisions. But there was a lot of, and Scott, I don't know if you remember this, but there were like some things that we knew we hadn't locked down about the characters and how they kind of interact with the larger story that unfolds, in the other books. And so, and to kind of accommodate that, because you were writing, I believe it was book 6 or book 7.
Well, yeah, originally it was supposed to be book 6, and Hutch was involved with the overall continuity edit of 6.
Yeah,
and then 6 became split into 6 and 7.
At Hutch's suggestion.
At Hutch's suggestion. Yep. And then A and I had the big talk about, I think there's a good break point here. And then after that, we're like, there's also a really solid break point in 7 and 8. So now that, with Hutch involved, GFL went from ending at book 6 to now it's book 6, 7, and 8. So that's what you were going through.
Yeah. And at some point, the characters, and this is a little light spoiler, but the characters that you see in Stone Wolves appear in later books in, the GFL series.
Yep.
Right? And which Scott was writing, those scenes for that specific book that that they appear in, while I was writing, my part of Stone Wolves.
Okay.
And so we knew that so Scott's take on the characters was different than mine, because I was finding them in real time as I was writing, and he was working off of what I was finding in real time. And so there was this kind of like not a misalignment in a bad way, but it was just like we had to have a unified voice come back through and bridge those personality gaps. And Beans was one of them, the way he speaks. Aya was I think that the beating heart of Aya is about the same, but
I agree.
But Scott brought a lot of that terrific slang, that apex slang.
But the thing about Aya that is so special to lots of people, me included, is she's not jaded. She has had this terribly difficult way to the Olerin, that getting home, so to speak, was so hard for her. And she's so not jaded. She goes into everything like, wow.
Yeah, she's a little wide-eyed.
Yeah,
maybe the wide-eyed nature of her might have been something in an early draft that Scott fleshed out. But I want to make it clear to the folks at home, this kind of really clear arc of Aya finding a home, on the ship. And that her trial and rite of passage, that was all Scott. Like Scott really fleshed that out for that final draft.
I can't say, and it's so hard to remember, but the talk about being set up with a wonderful volleyball serve, a set, if you will. So anything that was spikeable was set up by the process of working with Hutch. But really, it started out, and this is something we found with the Crypt too, where we had a lot of other voices involved. Like, I know I can come up with great characters. There's a lot of cool stuff I can do. But when you get a creative talent like Hutch involved, the 3 characters who showed up on that ship, I was like, I would not have written these characters. And it was like Christmas to be like, okay, great. Now I got this. ember that I would have never gotten before. And now how do I weave that in to the next 3 books?
Yeah.
And then feed back to Hutch to say, okay, well, they have to have these elements so that it all seems like we thought we planned it all along.
So for me, I think technically I'm probably in between OJ and 2J. Like, I didn't get an OJ tag.
OJ, man, you're OJ. You're married to the man.
Well,
You're an honorary OJ at the very least.
But what's important here is I have been I will say, obviously integral to the GFL and getting the GFL out into the world. And one thing that's unique about this book is you write alone. You write, Scott writes much more sharp staccato sort of scenes. And owing to your personas, your marketing personas, J.C. Hutchins is a happier, even if he's writing about death and dismemberment, a happier writer in on the page. And then Scott is. Scott is a little darker. And that has ended up in a beautiful thing. Steve Rickyberg, who's in the chat room, he has seen this happen too. This book is like 12 chapters long, or maybe 20. It's not very many chapters. In contrast, The Gangster is like 131 chapters because they're like. But the nice thing about this is that you, JC, you had to take Druge or Killian, who are dark, awful souls, like they are tortured people, and give them some grace and humanity. And he had to take Aya and Beans and make them ready for war. And I love it so much. And it's weird because that made the chapters a lot bigger, but it made the characters a lot fuller too. And I really dig it.
Let's talk about Druge Thorn for a moment. Now, that is one where I feel as the older I get and the more life experience I get, the more undefined the right and wrong morals of the characters are in the books. And I think there's a legacy in the GFL that Quentin Barnes is kind of, although he's been through a horrible, horrible childhood, he's still relatively squeaky clean and kind of, he will
100%.
Always make the right good decision. His dad, not so much. So, and it's through and we won't spoil too much, but it's through the dynamic of Druge Thorn's relationship to Killian and Killian's PTSD in the military and having to do stuff or choosing to do stuff in the military that is just awful, that these two create such a dynamic push-pull. But you kind of leading off with Druge Thorn and how he interacted, his history with Killian. Do you remember what was any of your thought process through that, or where you wanted to go with the big bad?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was some. So, like for the folks at home, there was this collaborative process has been really cool and really rad, because Scott came to me and said, "Look, there are certain plot points that we have to hit, and there are certain, like for instance, dangerous technologies that we have to mention and describe, right?" And so for me, it's like, well, the real threat isn't in, like, the real existential threat to the galaxy isn't mentioned in the book, the Stone Wolves. It's set up, but like what may happen with that technology in future books is really the big threat that's implied. But I wanted to give that problem a face, and I wanted to give that face a sincere and understandable motive for what what kind of fuels him in his revenge against Killian, but that intersection of Killian and Druge, Thorn in the beginning of the book, also kind of like propels him with hatred and piss and vinegar to embrace the development of the technology that happens later in the book. So like there's this point where, when you have nothing more to lose, which is what, Druge finds himself, at early in the book, you'll just do whatever you want to say screw the world, to not only your nemesis, but to the very universe itself. And that's, what kind of act would push a person to be that kind of cynical and that hateful? That was like the question for me as I was kind of developing what Killian might have done to destroy Druzh's life. And what I'm really tickled about is that like that reason didn't change, and very little of the text that I wrote for the scene in which we reveal, you know, what that sin that he commits, that Killian commits, like basically appears in the book as written.
And I remember that because I just got shivers when I read it. I was like, again, like, I know I can write some good shit. There's no question. Yes, that's a swear. You guys can find me $1. Hutch, they find me $1 in the chat room every time I swear.
That's my favorite thing.
But it's when you have a advanced creative talent who comes in with something that you would not have thought of. I just said.
Oh, here.
Can't see you guys.
Start video.
Oh, you can't see some. Yep. Yeah, we're having some trouble with our camera. Let me start that up again. Thank you.
That's okay. Yeah.
When you get
really subtle there,
very subtle,
Scott.
That's it.
I'm like talking to Scott in the back channel on text.
Showed
like,
up right
hey,
on
by
screen.
the way, and here we go.
Yeah, keep up the back channel. We're having a few technical difficulties. But when that scene came in, it was just like right out of the gate. The foundation of the story is so strong because now I've got what I call the Battlestar Galactica moment, which is why I adore the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, because in so many episodes, you don't know who to root for. They do such a good job where the Cylons are victims. The humans are victims. The humans are victimizing each other. And you watch this incredibly deftly written, complex scene with multiple morals involved, and you're like, I don't fucking know who to root for. That's another $1. But that scene coming in, I was so excited because I'm like, now I've got a villain that people will not be sure if they're supposed to hate or not.
Yeah. And I will tell you guys, all of you in the chat room, and also I think the two of you know this already, but I suffer from PTSD, and I in the beginning of the pandemic I was a little bit out of maintenance. And what's interesting about that is I had a moment where in my life, my personal life, where I did a thing I know I did something shitty, and I know I did it. And I can't figure out how I chose that. But I can't absolve myself from having done it either. I have to do my best to make reparations and fix it. That is my favorite thing about the Druge Killian relationship, is neither one of them like are the hero of their own story who is pristine. They both know they have done something terrible and it was worth it to them to do the terrible thing, and therefore they know the consequences belong to them, even though the consequences are so outsized and so unfair. Yeah. And neither one of them, Killian doesn't absolve himself of having done that terrible thing. He would have done that terrible thing again, I think. And he knows it.
Yeah, I agree.
And I love that moment
like
because
they're neither heroes to each other, but they're each other's villains. You know,
for
and
sure,
that's the,
yeah.
You know, what I like about and this was a note that we kept throughout the whole thing was that Killian is deeply sorry for what he does what we see in the beginning of the book, but he never achieves a self-forgiveness. I don't even think he tries to.
He doesn't want forgiveness at all. He's looking back.
It's a bridge too far.
The stuff he did when he was, when he felt he had he had a blank check of morality. He could do whatever he wanted because he was fighting for the cause, and he was fighting for what is right. And I feel that what Killian became throughout the rest of the book is a echo or a metaphor of service people all over the globe, not just American service people, that when they are in the thick of it and doing stuff they are called upon to do, and then some, they get out of it and be like, what the hell was that all about? Like, why did I do that? That's so crazy.
And we teased that out. I mean, I think that was kind of something that kind of burbled up in the surface. I mean, I don't like when I was writing the first draft, I mean, like, I think that was close to mine, but it wasn't deliberately in my mind. But it became so clear that you were able to, like, in revisions and as we kind of collaborated back and forth, I mean, that came to the surface quite well and is like as well represented as I believe we could have done it, not being service people ourselves.
And that's one of the tricky parts about trying to reference or capture that experience and that incredibly complex emotional set, but not having gone through it ourselves. We can always find stuff that we've been through and say, well, we did this and this sucks, so it'd be similar to this, but you can empathize, but you can't truly understand, which is one of the challenges of being a writer is how do I communicate stuff that didn't happen to me?
But I also think you guys have created a situation. And of course, we see so much more of Killian than we do of Druge. But you don't just see it in Killian. You see it a little bit. You see it, you don't see it in Carmago, but you do see it in Quentin even a little, where he would prefer not to, but all of these people, Killian would prefer not to have done what he did to be who he is, but he is not going to put it down, because if he puts it down, he's not. The defining event with Druge is sort of a Nasdor in a way. It's a memory that will stop him from being that evil again, and he uses it that way. And I think that, you know, we see that happen in Quentin in the prison. We see these things happen again and again, and it's a thing we don't do a lot as humans today because, you know, we don't have these big life or death moments, but we don't often say like, yeah, I screwed that up and I will always be sorry and I can't take it away, but I'm going to try and fix it.
That's it. With both of those characters and with Aya too, and Zan, you don't know what Zan has done, but you will find out in 7 and 8.
Yeah, you will.
They can't take it back. What they have done cannot be taken back, and they know that and embrace it. Killian manages it a little bit better than Druge Thorn does. Druge Thorn has done awful stuff and continues to roll on with the awful stuff, where Killian just decides to beat himself up all the time. But he knows once it's done, there are no make goods.
But that's an interesting thing that you just said, because the reason I think that's true is Killian has hope that he can expand his chosen family or his family. He has aspirations to come back to the fold, so to speak. But Druge knows all is lost. Druge is like, yeah, I don't care about all of humanity because I don't care about all sentience, because the two sentience I did care about, I don't.
I think that's what Hutch brought to the table, Druge, and Hutch wants you to respond to this. Is he doesn't care. He's sort of just at this point. He's just living for the sake of living. He has nothing to live for other than possibly to get revenge. But everything he ever cared about is no longer there. What is that? Was that something you thought of consciously, bringing that character to the table with his past?
It's it's like the fusion. It's like the nuclear reactor, right? Much like Killian's nuclear reactor that powers him is that sin and that guilt that shoves him into this kind of seclusion, this pacifistic seclusion, right? I will not kill again. I will not, non-lethal all the way. I'm going to hide in the, in the void and just do my thing and just barely scrape by until I die, whenever that might be. I mean, that's like, that's his fuel, right? But with Thorn, I wanted to take it to a place where, again, it's like, what could happen to make you say screw the world? And then and the forces that are backing this destructive technology that he is overseeing, is absolutely happy to say, oh, you're our guy. We couldn't find a better guy who's more consumed with piss and vinegar for the universe than you. I do want to say something about the kind of creation, the creative process in creating Killian, was that very early on, Scott and I both blipped on, he is let's make him Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. Where this guy is on a farm, on a pig farm, and he's not a very good pig farmer, in the middle of nowhere, and has a bloody past and crossed all these lines and just wants to keep his head down. But of course, his past yanks him back into the saddle and with the six shooters, and and that's what really kind of motivated a lot of the sadness that I wrote into his character, right? And the kind of reluctance to get back in there. But I think I kind of erred on him being a little too mopey. And again, this is just the deft, storytelling of Scott coming in, was that Scott kind of filed off those kind of soft edges of him and made him a little more scissor sharp and a more practical and a bit more assertive and aggressive, and it really worked for the final draft for sure.
It's become, and this continues in 7 and 8, where you've got Killian, who held thousands or millions of lives in his hand. He can't even count how many people he's killed. It's a lot of sentient beings. And there are areas where when certain situations pop up, he's in charge. You do what he says. If you don't do what he says, he'll bring you back in line right away. He knows how to handle you, how to handle everybody. And then the same guy that can do all of these things is absolutely mystified by his own crew and has no idea how to manage Bean and Aya.
Yeah, Beans and Aya especially.
And then for the most part, Zan's the actual captain of the ship.
Correct.
And Killian's just getting crocked all the time. So it's almost like, let's talk about that for a little bit, Hutch. So you've got this Clint Eastwood character who was an action movie, a recruitment movie. He was this giant decorated hero of the galaxy, and now he's a 2-bit bum on a piece of crap ship, and he cannot contain his own crew. What is it about his crew and the way you set that up that he doesn't even know how to manage these people?
Well, it's like, this is kind of like a storytelling trick, but like you got to make these side characters as kind of colorful and as fun as the story will permit them to be.
Yep.
And early on, Scott and I were like, this is a motley crew. They are off the chain. They like, some of them are barely contained madness, like Beans, and all of them are hexed. All of them are cursed by, again, like stuff that they have done in their own lives. Right. And so then it just kind of became this kind of tightrope walk of like when to make a joke, right? When and this is all again like craft weirdo craft stuff, but there's like this we need to have different aspects of these different supporting characters tug at different parts of Killian, right? And irritate him in certain ways or reassure him in other ways, right? And we're able to kind of then flip the script on that so that maybe by the beginning of the story, Aya might be a kind of an X factor, right, for Killian, right? But by the end, I mean, there's just no question, even like by the third act, there's just no question that he absolutely trusts her, right?
100%.
As long as there are, and like Beans is just there just to, make fart jokes and just, just be awesome. So we just, a lot of that was like us going, I remember that vividly, like going back and forth, like, what if this? And I'd write these little bios, right? This is long before we wrote any, text.
Oh, yeah, I remember the bios. Yeah,
these little, these real tiny, like maybe 5 or 6 paragraph bios of these different characters. And we would just kind of play what if with it and tease it out. And that's where, for Beans, for instance, he's got a death warrant from an entire species.
Yep.
After him, he's a heretic with a capital H.
Yep.
And that what didn't come from me. My idea was, hey, let's flip the script and make this alien being, let's defy some expectations with the alien being. But it was Scott who layered on and he's on the run from everybody. It was like, and I think that was a really cool kind of like, it's almost like geologic, right? Where all these different layers of a thing start building on one another. And that was so much fun, those initial brainstorming stories, just for that reason.
And one of the things that I found as a reader, which is a little hard to do at this point in our career, but reading it straight through, I did get to read it whole once. And I think everybody thinks, all of those players think that they have lucked into the family they needed, as opposed to each one of them having the ability to like accept some of that chosen family's discipline and redirection and that kind of thing. And particularly you see that like Killian struggles with being the captain and captaining because that's Zan's job. He doesn't trust himself. But Zan is like, well, I will do this, but I'm going to do this my way, and you're not going to like it my way either. But that's good for you, and that kind of thing. And I think each of them in this chosen family not just find what they need in everybody else, but work to figure out how they best work together. And that's a thing that I think we maybe have learned over the last couple of years, how to integrate when you actually you can't shine yourselves up and have the perfect outfit and and go to the perfect bar and, all that stuff. You just have to do your best over Zoom. And I think that that's what they do, especially Zan, right? She creates a whole community and you never... All right. Never hang with her.
And speaking to that, I'm sorry, let me just be a windbag for just a second. But like building off of that, it's like, I don't think that they can live without each other by the end of the book. Like I think that it's like almost like fate, or like they're almost like organs in a body. And Aya was the missing piece.
Mm-hmm.
I in some of that, the way that feels is, hopefully don't cry over this, but this is one of those things when you are with the right person at the right time in your life, and you're like, I have become so accustomed, and my identity is wrapped up in this person. If that person goes away, I'm not going to be the same. The me that is the me with A will be dead and be gone, and then there will have to be a new me. That's kind of thing. So. That's a little deep. Now we're going to flip over to the lighter side. Hutch, the people in the chat room are asking, what's the cat's name?
Oh, her name's Kitten.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, professional writer J.C. Hutchins. Creative
I
talent.
save all the good names for
creative talent. J.C. Hutchins named his cat Kitten. Okay, very good.
So Druge, by the way, Thorn Druge. So like this was like what a salute. This was all about the Zoroastrian guild, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I did some research on Zori, that religion.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with a Z that I can't pronounce.
Zoroastrian.
And Druge is a deity, or like a heavy. He's a bad guy.
I did not know that till this moment. Dang it.
So we have two questions that one from a new maybe a newer reader. Shannon asks, she loved Seventh Son. What do you recommend next?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I recommend, there was a project that I did. It was a serialized stories called The 33.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say, but I didn't know.
Yeah, and these are like they're low cost, ebooks to buy on either Amazon or at my site, and the idea is that it's almost like episodic TV for your e-reader, where there are like, or comic books where like you read one story and it kind of cliffhangers you into a second or a third story, tells a really good arc, but you can also pick up one shots along the way. Mm-hmm. And it's basically about, a team of 33 misfits who have been hired by some mysterious billionaire to take on the evil technologies and demonic forces that are trying to destroy the world.
Okay.
So it's just your average everyday J.C. Hutchins story.
And our good friend and long-suffering heroine, Robin Hudson, wants to know if you're still wearing the boots.
I still got them. Still got the dragon boots.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
Shit,
good.
if I'd known, I would have worn them and showed them to you.
We've had a couple questions about the dragon boots in the chat room.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yep, they're still here. Yep.
All right. So without spoilering the ending, Hutch, do you have a favorite part of the Stone Wolves? And if so, what is it?
Hansel Gretel.
I love it. That's good.
I did turn out well.
That is some of the funniest shit. I mean, like I'll call out a more specific scene, I guess, but our combined forces, and like we are horror writers, we are science fiction writers, mm-hmm. but we both are funny writers in our respective ways.
Right.
And it was like chocolate and peanut butter with beans and Zan, but especially beans. Mm-hmm. And this whole like Hansel Gretel and like I cannot find my anus and my species does not have an anus, whatever it was just the funniest shit. Uh-huh. And I was laughing out loud as I was writing it. And then to hear you narrate it was great. But I think that like this business of like the beating heart of the book, finding family, mm-hmm. and I can't speak for you guys, but I'll certainly speak for myself that like I got some people in my family that I'm glad that I can choose to
100%,
not be around, and it takes a kind of bravery to understand that like your family doesn't have to be blood.
Right.
And that you can build your tribe or your clan, as far away from that family as you want. And that despite, these very, tight bonds that we all have, especially in our youth with our family, those can be cut, or at the very least, those can be distanced. And so that really, was almost like a motive for me, as a creative motive as I was writing it, was like, I've had to do that. I've had to find my family.
Me too.
And in an interesting way, like, we're talking 10 years ago now, guys, more than that, with when we were doing all this stuff with Seventh Son and Infected and whatnot, is that like, that's how I found this family. You know, and I still have, you know, friends for life from that experience. You know, you two are certainly, you know, two of them. And so like, that was you know, in hindsight, like, I think that was a pretty strong creative driver for me.
Yeah.
That and trying to figure out a way to blow up the world.
I will say,
I will say, as a potential spoiler, I'm not supposed to say stuff like this, I get in trouble, but even though the person will get in trouble is sitting right here, this crew turned out to be so strong. I'm glad we get to see them in 7. I'm glad we get to see them in 8. And should they survive...
Oh, there's the part.
Should they survive the abattoir that is GFL Book 8, this be... When GFL series is done, Quentin and Becca and that whole crew, they're gone. They're done. It's over. Your story is finished. You will not hear from them again. But thanks to Hutch and this process, the Olerin crew could be good for a couple of ventures down the road. Once you get other things done, we'll see.
I will say this, from a production standpoint, and Steve, please correct me if I misrepresent us at all, but Steve Rickeberg is, of course, our engineer and had to create Beans's filter, all the things. And oh, my goodness gracious. Steve and I had to shout at each other on text so that we didn't say anything about Beans before Beans existed in the wild. We loved Beans so much. And there's a weird kind of kismet that happens in this book. Somewhere in this book, Scott uses the word inestimable. And if you guys who are in the chat room are listening to this, search J.C. Hutchins inestimable, you will come up with a SoundCloud of him working on a podcast or an audiobook where he practices saying inestimable and screws it up every time he goes to record. So he's like, okay, inestimable. It is pee your pants funny. And I
was so mad. Yeah.
Oh my God, but it's so beautiful that you put it up on the internet so that I could laugh when I have a bad day. It's great. During the recording of this book, he had to say inestimable in the course of the text.
By design. Yeah, by design.
Right.
And had the exact God damn. Okay. In so much so that when I sent, we uploaded the raw files, I sent a text. I found the link to SoundCloud and I sent it to Steve so that when he heard it, I was like, just when you get to this audio, you'll know what I mean.
Nelson found it.
So good.
Nelson, post that link.
Oh, it's so good.
I'll see if I can get that link.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I will tell all of you in the chat room that Steve, because he's brilliant, purposefully chose in the blooper reel you heard, we hadn't yet met Beans. So when you heard the blooper reel for earlier, Beans wasn't in it on purpose. So we might have a Beans specific or inestimable specific.
We're going to see if we get inestimable up. But first of all, let's go. Hutch is off the screen, Hutch off the screen. But I want to point out how much people are loving this book. It's only been out since September 14th, so not even a full month. We have 142 ratings on Audible and a 5.0 average on the book. That does not happen very often. And even all the other stuff, like if I got a 4.2 to a 4.5, I'm like, that book is killing it. 142 5-star ratings for this book. So Hutchins, thank you so much. Now let's go to see if I can get this up.
In estimate. Yeah, so when you guys, if you haven't yet gotten to that point in the Stone Wolves and you hear it, you'll laugh out loud just on principle after this.
Inestimable. Our inestimable. Our inestimable. Our inestimable. Our inestimable. Our inestimable.
This is what
our
he did.
inestimable duty officer.
Holy shit. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I don't even know what the F that was. It was an estimable amount of volume is what it was.
Wow.
But when he started flubbing that line, I totally was the worst director because I was like, oh, hang on, I have to find this to send to Steve Rickeberg.
We put it in specifically as an Easter egg for the old school podcast fans, and then I couldn't pronounce the motherfuckers. So I'll take the $1 fine, I'll take it. And then I got mad because I'm like, I knew this was coming. I put it in for a laugh, and then I couldn't pronounce it either.
Good.
And it just got no. Tracy, I'm not going to block Hutchins. I already blocked Hutchins twice. I'm not going to block Hutchins on this show. I've got it figured out, so that was fine. All right, so we've got let's go to the chat room. Any other questions for Hutch in the chat room? But Hutch, I want to say that thank you so much for this process. I adore this book. It's one of the best experiences of my professional career is to write this book. I think these characters turned out to be absolutely outstanding, and I mean this is absolutely a franchise. This novella. This is a franchise thing. A lot of people in the chat room have been, you can read this as a standalone. This is now, if you have hardcore sci-fi friends who hate jocks and football and all the other stuff,
agreed.
This is the calling card. You can read the Stone Wolves by itself, and then you will see what the Siglerverse is all about. Then you can roll into it. Now, thank you, sir, because this turned out to be great.
Oh, you're welcome. I was honored, and we're buddies. Like we're buddies. But when you get the call, to play in this sandbox, like you just don't turn it down. And one of the things that has been like just deeply moving for me through the whole process was that the Sigler that we see is not always the Sigler that A sees or Scott sees, right? And for me, the confident storyteller that you may see isn't always that confident. And being invited to play in such a rich world and to put my fingerprints on it in a way that matter.
Yep.
That helped define the future of the story and beyond is an honor beyond measure. And I'm just so grateful that you gave that opportunity and that we were able to, just as we, I would riff ideas on text for like stories that I was working on, and I'd bounce ideas off of you and vice versa. Like it really did feel like chocolate and peanut butter coming together for this. Great. I mean, our storytelling sensibilities are so aligned, and I'm just a dynamite treat to not only be a part of it, but to know how the whole thing ends.
Yeah. So now, let me think. I'm gonna give me a cough drop, but I think I'll get through this. The number of people who know how all of the GFL ends is 4. Thanks, baby. There's me, of course. There's Big John Viscara. There's A, and there's Hutch.
Yep.
4 people in the world know how it's gonna end. And I'm gonna take. Can I borrow some money?
How much?
You need to borrow some money from me too, because y'all ain't seen fucking nothing.
There's gonna be some fines here. There's one for Hutch. This motherfucking shit. The way this shit ends will blow your fucking mind. And before you're allowed to read it, you will need to sign in blood that you will not spoil it for the future generations. They will get to read the shit that I've been setting up for 20 years. It is spectacular, but the crew of the Oleron is going to factor very heavily into that.
And rightfully so.
I will give us another spoiler. Killian is a point of view character in GFL Book 7.
That's huge.
One other point of view character that I will not say yet has been in another novella, but we have Killian as a point of view character, and then Killian's role in GFL Book 8 will be, I think it'll be lights out. I think people are going to dig it.
And for me, I'll say this. It's an interesting thing to have watched the evolution of the Stone Wolves. So a lot of you know his nickname in the book is the Killer. And when the whole process first started, the novella was called The Killer. And then things in the big wide real world changed a little bit, and we decided that was probably not the best choice of name in this particular world. And the thing that I love about that, which is totally inadvertent because every single other novella is titled about the main character, is the reporter. It's about, I guess not title fight. I'm wrong there. But is the title became completely by accident about the chosen family instead of about the killer. And that, I think, is a spectacular sort of revelation of how that whole process went for you guys, because your writing became a lot more emotionally human and resonant and character driven. And, Hutch, you got to play in this playground, but also create these super 360-degree characters who are doing terrible things but have to be able to go to sleep at night and put their head down and get some rest and figure out a way to live with themselves. And I think you guys did a great job. And I love that one of the very last things that happened is we inadvertently made it about the family you choose. The title about the family you choose.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great. It's dynamite. Thank you.
And
Scott, thank you for
it's my
bringing me
pleasure
on.
because I go back to guest here. I've kind of been in as all creatives, we get better at what we do the longer that we go, and as writers, we get more in tune with what it's like to have a broad swath of experience and get to know what it's like to screw up, what it's like to make mistakes, what it's like to make aggressive, confident decisions because you believe you are in a place of righteousness, only to find out 10 years later that you were not righteous at all. You were an idiot, and you were listening to other people telling you to do things and not looking at the bigger scheme of things. Let me show you this up. There we go. But I will say this, that the way these characters turned out and the way Killian turned out, the way Drew's turned out, this book has impacted my writing style for the better. I will carry lessons forward from the Stone Wolves, thanks to writing with Hutch, that it's going to change the way I write from here on out. And you guys can see that when you read Mount Fitzroy. Mount Fitzroy.
I completely agree.
Mount Fitzroy is a direct result of some of the change. Because remember, Hutch and I have been working on this for 5 years or so. A direct result of some of the changes, and getting that extra little nudge of somebody else's creativity, like, okay, now I could play it this way. It's been a wonderful experience, and you guys, for all the other books you read from here on out, you should say thank you, J.C. Hutchins, because it's going to be fingerprints will be there.
And if you appreciate what Scott just said about Mount Fitzroy, and you've read that book, I think particularly Worm, the humanness of Worm in Fitzroy is quite heavily influenced by his experience on the Stone Wolves, for sure. And I know a lot of you love Worm, so I figured that would be nice to know.
All right, Hutch, is there anything else you'd like to say before we boot your ass from the show?
Buy your books, people. Buy your damn books.
Buy your damn books. All right. Hutch, I don't have a graceful way to do this, so I'll follow up with you later, but I'm going to go back to Maine, and then we will end this call, and we will follow up later.
Both.
Love you, bye.
Take
Later.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And meeting for all. And boy, I tell you, I'm going to have to rewire this whole office because this camera thing is getting nuts. Like now we're in the shorter camera. We keep switching cameras. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is, I think that's it. Is this we have?
That is, yeah. We just have our closing.
That was
stuff to
awesome.
do.
That was fun. And again,
It was really fun. Yeah.
Now that Hutch is off and he can't, yap, I will say that this has been such a wonderful. All the novellas were wonderful. Writing with the Fiend Master, writing with Murr, writing with Matt F. and Wallace. It's all been great. All of those touches have changed my writing style to some extent. I think now I'm done with collaboration. I don't see myself collaborating anymore for the rest of the career. I just have so much we have to get out. Yep. So it was nice to go out on top with yet another awesome collaboration where you get to see someone who is vastly underappreciated in my opinion. Hutch's deal with Seventh Son could have gone a whole different way, but we won't get into that now. But just vastly underappreciated, amazing talent, wonderful human being, and
if there
good
happens
friend.
to be any of you in the chat room who have never looked up Seventh Son, it can't be a spoiler to tell you what the first sentence of the trilogy is. I don't think,
I
right?
don't remember. No.
The President of the United States was just assassinated by a 4-year-old boy.
That's pretty good.
Something very much like that. And I was
pretty
like,
strong.
wait, what? And that was it. I was hooked. I was like, nope, that can't be.
First lines are super important.
Yeah.
I hope all you guys in the chat room have enjoyed this. We had just a bumper crop of attendees. I knew this would be a big episode for us.
Yeah.
Because so many people here were either there in the beginning when it was all going down and watching Hutch and I interact, or have come in along the way and heard about Hutch. And a lot of people who've never heard about Hutch. We have Chris McWhite, who says never read a single sentence of Seventh Son.
I think you would enjoy it.
Batten down your hatchets, my friend, because hatches.
Don't even pick up a hatchet. It's a bad idea.
Batten down your hatches because it's good stuff, and you guys will really like it. And
Thank you,
Stephen Jacob
Jacob.
says the President of the United States is dead. He was killed in the morning light by a 4-year-old boy. Or now he says or something. I thought he was going.
But it is something like that. But it is so powerful because you're like, that can't be. That was an accident. What? And it's interesting.
It's a good first line.
Anyhow, so we will be back next week. Next week is National Office Chocolate Day, whatever that means. We
God
switched cameras
damn,
again.
what is going on with this thing?
And
Let's go over here.
yeah, let's go
That
over
looks
there.
better. God damn you, son of a bitch. Here we
And
are.
so we will see you
The main camera.
next Wednesday. I will tell you, we are seeing you next Wednesday. The following Wednesday after that, we will be up at my best friend's wedding, and we will not have a Sigler in place the last week of October, and we'll be back in November, of course. So until then, if you have anything, especially if you haven't gotten your gangster and you want information about it, anything you need related to the gangster, email info@emptyset, unless it's to ask about posters, because those started shipping today. You can send in content ideas for Sigler in Place. Certainly send in photos or Siglebrations for Sigler in Place. And all the time, every single moment of every single day, the best way to do that is info@emptyset.com.
And a mention will be back Wednesday, October 20th, celebrating National Office Chocolate Day, which I'm going to eat
Might
some
be these
chocolate.
again.
It's going to be very good.
If
Because
they
we
exist
are
next Wednesday.
ABEOC, always be eating on
Always
camera.
be eating, yeah. So until then, oh boy, we still need you to stay safe, you guys. We love you.
We want you to stay smart.
We absolutely need you to stay science.
And for the love of science, ladies and gentlemen, stay informed. You need to survive long enough to read GFL Book 8. After
Yep.
that, you can do whatever the F you want, and you can tip off to the graveyard. I don't care, but stay alive till the end of GFL Book 8. You put in all this time. Let's get that done.
We love you very much. We hope to see you back next week. In the meantime, take good care of yourselves and each other.
And for us, for the Siglers and for the Hutchins, you can all now kiss off into the sky.